Hello class, this is a quick continuation on true bearings and compass bearings. In the previous video we saw how we could recognize and state what the true bearing and compass bearings are of a given diagram. In this set of examples we're going to work backwards this time. In this instance we're going to be shown it's going to be a short diagram. What we need to do is draw the diagram from the description. So I'm going to pause here and you can give this a go yourself at any time. So here we go. So whenever we're working with bearings, in this instance we can see it because it's got that 3 digits, whereas this has got that south 28 degrees west. These indicate that we are working with bearings. So immediately we should actually draw closer to the middle of the workspace a small compass rose. This is called the compass rose, by the way, in the center, not here to the side, because if you try and draw this you may end up with a problem where you don't have enough space off to this side. So drawing this closer to the middle, we put north, like so. Now it says, from Adrian. The moment we can recognize who or what the subject of the problem is, that becomes our starting point, and that goes in the center of our compass rose. So this is Adrian. We're looking at the top of this person's head. So it's a bird's eye view or an aerial view. And it says, from Adrian, Bob is on a bearing of 37 degrees. So imagining now together, we imagine that from Adrian, he's facing this way. He's now going to rotate 37 degrees. Since this is a true bearing, we always know to go clockwise, like so. So 37 degrees, it doesn't have to be completely accurate. I know that to be 45, because, well, my iPad locks it in at 45 degrees. So 37 is a little bit less than that. It doesn't have to be exact, but that there is the diagram we're looking for. And Bob would be standing here. So showing this again, from Adrian, we draw a compass and we put Adrian at the center, or A at the center. Bob is on a bearing of 37 degrees, so looking straight and rotating 37 degrees until Adrian has a direct line of sight of Bob. So that there is the diagram of this description. Alright, so you can pause and give the next one a go yourself, but here we go. So it says, Charles is on a bearing of south 28 degrees west from Danielle. Notice how in this problem I've tried making the wording slightly different. I hope you can read here. It says from Danielle. So once again, this means that, well, since we're working with a compass question, a bearings question, sorry, we immediately draw that compass rose, and it's stated that it's from Danielle, which means Danielle is here in the center, so that's D. Put north there. So D is in the center of that compass. And it says that Charles is on a bearing of south 28 degrees west. So we need to imagine that now. South, and then, so Danielle is facing south, and she's going to rotate her vision until she's looking at Charles. So imagining that now. So south 28 degrees is rather short, so that there is 28 degrees. Doesn't have to be exact, but that right there is going to be 28 degrees, and Charles is at the end of that vision there. So let's extend this a little bit further actually, so that it's not so cramped. Whoops. And Charles is there at the end of Danielle's vision there. So that there is the diagram of this description. Alright, so let's move right along. You can pause. I really encourage you to pause and give these next two a go yourselves. So it says, the bearing of Eddie to Frank is 128 degrees. This, once again, the wording is rather tricky here. It says the bearing of Eddie to Frank. So it's of Eddie to Frank. So it's saying that it's the bearing of Eddie towards Frank. So for this, we always draw the compass because we know its bearings. In this instance, Eddie is in the center because it's of Eddie to Frank. So Eddie is going to be standing here in the middle. North is here. And it says the bearing of Eddie to Frank is 128 degrees. So that's a true bearing, meaning we face north and rotate Eddie until he's facing 128 degrees. So let's just imagine that Eddie's facing here and he's rotating. That would be 90. This would be 180. So 128 would just be approximately here. And Frank would be at the end of Eddie's vision there. Now, we could just write that this is 128. But for later, since we're going to be working with trigonometry, it's best to actually draw this against one of the cardinal directions. Meaning, it's better to draw this angle instead of the full 128. So that would be 128 degrees. But it's actually better to draw just either this angle or this angle. Either one, so long as it's an acute angle. Well, since this is 128 and this would be 90, that blue bit there would just be 128 minus 90, which would be 38 degrees. Right, so that there is the diagram of this example. Let's do the last one. So duplicate this. Okay, let's go from here. So it says the bearing of Grant from Hank is north 28 degrees west. Now, I hope you can see in this one, it's very clear. It says from Hank, meaning Hank is in the center of our compass rose here. And our bearing is a compass bearing. So we're starting from north and we're turning towards the west 28 degrees. So 28 degrees to the west would just be about here. And Grant would be at the end of that vision of Hank. And the angle here would be 28 degrees. All right, so I hope that gave you an insight into how we can interpret descriptions and convert them into a compass bearing or compass or true bearing diagram. Hope to see you in the next video, and best of luck.